My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was $3 shy of $1 million a week.
I can't imagine what's on the cutting room floor, but the amount of dialogue that you have or soliloquies that you have.
I know.
Did you count the number of pages you needed to memorize?
I'd been thinking about them for 6 years, really. When I got this screenplay, these were some of the most greed-infused Braveheart speeches that I've ever seen written on a piece of paper. So I've been thinking about them a lot, you know, but it was a whole different dynamic when you're standing up on that stage. And even though, you know, these extras are there and paid to applaud every word that you say, it you felt like, you know, you were a rock star. Like it infuses you with so much energy, and you understand sort of psychologically what Jordan must have felt, my character. You know, he felt like he was the head of a cult, and so that energy kind of was a rush throughout the movie.
Did you get to meet Jordan? What was he like?
Oh, I spent many months with him, yeah. I mean, many months, and you know, look, this guy's reflecting on a time period in his life where he was incredibly hedonistic. He was debaucherous. He took advantage of other people, but he's been living his life differently since then and paying the price for that. So he was able to be incredibly honest with me about everything that happened during that time period. And oftentimes he would say, not only was it like this, it was 10 times worse, and let me tell you why. And a lot of that stuff got directly infused into the movie, which was great, because it was a very, you know, improvisational, sort of creative film in that regard. We got to play around with the material as much as possible, but all of it's true.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles. You know what a fugazi is?
Oh, Fugazi, it's fake.
Hey, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Oh, so you mentioned debauchery. Of all these debaucherous scenes, do you have a personal favorite?
There's so many. I'd say there's look, I looked at this like I was playing an emperor in the Roman Empire, except it's of the modern era. And so, you know, there were giant orgy sequences on 747s, and this is all reflective of the real man's life. This stuff really happened. And so once we got into the mind frame of trying to depict this guy as realistically as we possibly could and not try to sugarcoat anything, we went for it, and it's all up on screen. There's not much left on the cutting room floor. Most of it's on screen.
You've worked with Marty so many times, but why do you guys click so well?
I think that, well, for me, it's very simple. I'm getting to learn from and be mentored by and work with one of the greatest artists of our time. You know, he's to me, he's beyond just a filmmaker. He's, you know, one of the great living artists that we have.
You're still learning at this stage.
Oh, hell yeah.
What did you learn on this film?
You know, this was my first, I don't want to say bad character, but I've done bad characters in the past. I mean, it's not the first time I've done this, but, you know, you set a tone for this film, and we were talking about whether the audience would go along this journey with this guy that is so incredibly self-indulgent and narcissistic. You know, would they feel anything? And he said something very important to me. He said, look, as long as you're authentic in your portrayal of who these people are, you don't try to sugarcoat it, and you don't try to give a false sense of empathy or sympathy for them. If you're honest, audiences will go with you. And that's kind of a good mantra for making movies, I think.